Thanks for joining the webinar, and thank you for choosing to be part of this breakout group on our AgFinance program. By way of a quick introduction, my name is Callum Scott. I'm originally from the UK. I'm now based in the Netherlands, and I've been working with Opportunity for 17 years now. So I've been with Opportunity for many years. I love doing this job. I think the reason I love it is because I love working with people who've perhaps been excluded from some of the advantages in life that we all enjoy. And I'm thinking particularly about, of course, access to basic financial services, but also to many other key building blocks as well. And I love having the chance through Opportunity to hopefully make some small meaningful impact in the lives of those families. So that's a little bit about me. Before I say more about my involvement in the impact report and data, I'm going to pass over to my good colleague, Sophia, who will introduce herself.
Thanks, Callum. Welcome, everyone. My name is SOPHIA BECKWITH. I'm currently in Malawi, but I'm based in South Africa, but I'm from Brazil originally. And I serve Opportunity as the Senior Director of Strategy and Client Success, but that really means I work with our financial products team. I connect our banks to the farmers, so the first mile and the last mile. Maybe a quick story about me. I actually worked for Opportunity 11 years ago, and then left to get my master's, and then continued working in sub-Saharan Africa, and then I rejoined Opportunity full-time a year and a half ago. So that probably speaks for itself in terms of my love for the work that we do. And yeah, so I was hired out of the Chicago office for a few months. They sent me to Malawi, and I've been based out here basically ever since. So since the end of 2014. But really, what I love to be able to be a part of, I think, growing up with families that were in farming and rural areas in Brazil, is to be able to see some of that difference that we make with our work and our impact, and just seeing families being able to have dignified lives and live their dreams and do the things that they plan for, and for us to be a small part of that journey and catalyzing those dreams. So very excited to be with all of you here today, and look forward to hearing your questions and talking more about what interests you in terms of our impact report. So back over to you, Callum.
Thanks, Sophia. So yes, we will talk for a few minutes each about the different work that we've been doing. But as Sophia says, we would love to hear from you as well. We leave lots of time for questions. We're happy for this to be a conversation. We'd love to hear your comments on the report, things you've picked up, any questions you have about the data as well. So I'll just kick off. My involvement in the impact report has been in my role as Opportunity's Global Impact Director. So I'm focused on working with different parts of our network to help us collect data on how our programs are performing. So with the AgFinance program, I've been working with our local in-country teams to get the data we need on the ground to answer a few key questions. So we want to understand, firstly, are we actually reaching the low-income excluded farmers that we want to reach? So what's the profile of the farmers that are part of our program? And does that match our expectations and our goals? And then, of course, we want to understand what impact are we having on the lives of those farmers? What outcomes are we seeing for the farmers and also for their families? So last year, I managed our survey program across Uganda, Rwanda, and Malawi, and we trained 200 of our farmer service agents to use mobile phone-based applications to survey 6,000 of the farmers that we serve. And it's the results from those 6,000 surveys that you see in the agriculture finance part of the impact report. So what results are most important? You see those on the screen, and really it comes down to we collect a lot of data, but the most crucial data points are around the change that we're seeing in the crop yields for the farmers, and the income that those farmers are earning. Really our support is about trying to help farmers to be more productive. So there's a stat that around a third of the world's food is produced by smallholder farmers, but because they lack access to training, technology, other resources, they're not as productive as they could be, and not as productive certainly as the averages for the agriculture sector. So if we could, through the support that we provide to farmers, close that productivity gap, we could improve the welfare of farmers, and we could also contribute to reducing global hunger. So, as I say, a lot of the data we're collecting is around farmer yield and income, understanding the crops that they're planting, how that's changing, how they're diversifying those crops, and how they're growing and selling more. It was really encouraging to see from last year's surveys that 72% of farmers were able to increase their yield, and 74% reported that their income from selling produce had increased. So that's great in itself, but also one knock-on effect in increasing farm productivity is the impact on employment on those farms. So more than half of our farmers surveyed had paid others from outside of their family to work on their farm. So that's our definition of paid employment. And the average farmer in the program employed 2.7 people, of whom more than half were women and a little under half were youth. So youth being under 35 is the definition that we use there. And when we scale up those averages across the program, that tells us that an average of 3.3 million people, 3.3 million jobs were created, of which 1.9 million are women and 1.6 million youth. And for me, this is exciting because these groups are typically further down the pyramids than the farmers themselves. They're more likely to be excluded and likely to be lower income on average than the farmers that we're directly supporting. Another knock-on impact of increased yield and income is that as the farms increase, as their yield and income increases, it opens other doors. So it makes our farmers more viable as clients for banks, reduces risk, and builds resilience. So, increased farm productivity can be a gateway to more formal financial services. And really, the quick summary, I know that's been a very short overview of the data and results, but a quick summary would be that, higher yields means higher incomes, which means more bankable clients. And that's probably a good segue to hand back to Sophia, who mentioned in her introduction that she's connecting our farmers with the microfinance institutions that are our partners. So over to you, Sophia, to talk us through that.
Thanks so much, Callum. And I think we have a good combo here because Callum is all of the number experience, and I spend most of my time in the field with either our clients or our bank partners. So hopefully I can share a little bit more about that as well. I think we'll go to the first photo that I've got, which I just wanted to introduce you to someone and tell a bit of a story. So some of you might know my boss, Tim Strong. He's in the photo there. But in 2024, he was in Rwanda at a cooperative, and we had just started our regenerative agriculture demonstration plots. So the demo plots, and I'll show you some photos later. Basically, we have the regenerative ag practices next to your traditional farming practices. And we were meeting with farmer support agents, meeting with a village savings and loan group. And Maria was kind of in the corners lurking a little bit. And Tim, as usual, noticed. And after the session, went up to her and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And she said, "No, I'm just very interested. What's happening here?" And he explained and kind of told her, and she was very curious. And then a year later, exactly a year later, or a year ago today, it was this week in Rwanda in 2025, I went with Tim to Rwanda, and we visited the same cooperative, and we were meeting with the VSLA, and Tim said, what are the odds that Maria's around? And lo and behold, Maria was there. And she was so interested in the demo plots that she ended up joining that Village Savings and Loan group. You can see her in the bottom photo. She's kind of tucked away in the back. She had just started learning the dances and the choreographies, but she had joined the group because of what she had learned through this program. And what you'll see in the next slide is basically what farmers are seeing. And it's not us telling them what to do, it's farmers walking past the comparisons every day and seeing the difference. So I think in the next slide, you'll see eggplant farming. Yep. Oh, I guess this is maize. We'll talk about maize first. That's fine. Corn. So you can see the two differences. So we literally do the regenerative plot next to the demonstration plot, or next to the normal plot. And you can see it's kind of hard to see, but we have mulch covering the ground there. We have a bit of, we've spaced them about differently. These corn were planted at the exact same time. So you can see the difference in health and growth. I lived in central Illinois for some time, and you can definitely tell the difference between healthy maize and not so healthy maize. And this, the mulch helps the soil stay protected, the humidity stay in there, and farmers are walking past this every day and seeing this difference. I think there's another photo too of the eggplants, and that's even more stark because you can see the quality of the soil, how it's been really depleted, and then on the other side, much healthier plants. And so these are the plots that Maria was walking past daily and kind of curious what was happening. And on the last photo, you can see the kind of stark realization. And this was the day that I was there. We had just had really heavy rains. And you can see all of that topsoil runoff from the normal plot. And then you can see the other side, which is the runoff from the demo plot side. And really what we're seeing here is showing in practice what these changes can do. And we've seen a 57% increase in yields, which is really exciting. But the bottom line is that farmers learn from each other, and we're just there to facilitate the spaces and occasions for them to come together and to be able to work through these things. So that's one hat that I wear, and the other hat that I wear is our GROW strategy, which is guaranteeing rural opportunities for women. And what's really exciting about this program is it connects this work that I just showed you with broader pieces in terms of helping women achieve their dreams, especially our female clients. So in many countries, we really are seeing a graduation pathway from village savings and loans organizations to cooperatives. And cooperatives have more bargaining power in terms of selling their produce, in terms of getting lending from banks, especially commercial banks and tier one banks. So over the last few years in Malawi, which is really exciting, we've been working to graduate VSLAs into cooperatives. And just this past year, we were able to finance with our partner institutions, both tier one and microfinance banks, 15 cooperatives that are all on average around 200 people. They've been trained by our team, and we're really seeing this as an incredible gateway for women to be able to go from more informal VSLAs to more formal cooperatives and lending opportunities. So that's really exciting. You will see that our gender number, our women numbers have gone down in 2025, but our overall portfolio has grown so much. So we're actually serving more women, just the percentage of women has gone down, but we still have a target of 60% women clients this year. We actually have a campaign with our financial institutions. This year is the International Year of the Woman Farmer. And we have run a campaign, or we're running a campaign with our partners to see who can increase their participation of women clients on their portfolio the most. And they will be rewarded at the end of the year. So they're quite keen to compete. But this is just a little bit about what I'm excited about at OI and the work that I'm doing. But thank you all so much for your attention and your questions.
Thanks from me too. Yeah.